Welcome back to the official Finflix channel. Today on Motivation Mondays, we are talking about how to create a life you don't need a vacation from. If the highlight of your life is escaping it, something's fundamentally broken. If you're living for the 2 weeks a year when you finally feel human again, you're not living, you're surviving. You weren't built to grind through 50 weeks of stress for 10 days of relief. You were built to create, to design, to align. But somewhere along the way, that idea got buried under calendar invites, minimum payments, and the illusion of making it. This isn't just a lifestyle issue, it's a systems failure. And it's more common than anyone admits. Most people aren't burned out from working too hard. They're burned out from working on the wrong things in the wrong rhythm for the wrong reasons. It starts early. We're handed a script before we can question the premise. Do well in school, go to college, get a stable job, climb the ladder, buy stuff that proves you're progressing. And somewhere between promotions and paperwork, that script becomes law. You don't question whether the ladder's leaning against the right wall. You just climb. And even when the rungs get harder to reach or the view from the top doesn't look that different, you keep climbing. Because you've been conditioned to equate busyness with value and exhaustion with success, you land your first real job. It pays enough to cover your rent and swipe your card without guilt. But soon you upgrade. Bigger apartment, better car. Nights out to prove it's worth it, and suddenly the margins evaporate. Not just financially, but emotionally, you start needing the weekend. You start fantasizing about vacation. And Monday becomes a countdown timer. This isn't you being unmotivated. It's you reacting to a life that was designed without your values in it. Vacations become medicine. A break from a life that's breaking you. You start to crave the feeling of being out of office more than being in your life. But here's the brutal truth. If the only time you feel free is when you're disconnected, then something about how you've connected your life isn't serving you, and that doesn't make you weak. It makes you aware. Aware that the current rhythm was inherited, not chosen. That maybe your schedule is performing success more than it's living it. That maybe, just maybe, the life you built isn't one you actually want to keep repeating. Pause. Let that settle in. What if the goal wasn't early retirement but emotional alignment? What if Monday didn't feel like punishment but like purpose? What if you stopped designing a life worth escaping from and started building one you didn't need a break from? Because here's the real flex. Waking up on a random Wednesday with no anxiety, no fake smile, no urge to scroll yourself into numbness. Just clarity, alignment, and control over the direction of your day. That doesn't require millions, that requires intentional design. This series, this video, isn't about selling you on a fantasy life in Bali, it's about giving you permission to reclaim your calendar, your energy, and your identity. To edit the script you were handed and write your own. To stop outsourcing purpose to future milestones and start building a life that delivers meaning now, inside the constraints of real-world responsibilities. But first, we need to unpack where the system went sideways. Why normal has become code for numb. Why busyness is seen as success. And why most people don't feel alive until they're halfway across the world, checking their email from a cabana. Let's dismantle the trap and start drawing a new map. Let's talk about the feeling of a vacation. Because it's not just about the scenery, it's about sovereignty. For once, your schedule is your own. You wake when your body's ready, not when your alarm screams. You choose what to do based on energy, not obligation. Meals aren't rushed, conversations aren't forced. You're not in a meeting pretending to care, you're in a moment actually present. That feeling, that's not magic. It's the removal of pressure. The pause of performance, the absence of urgency, and the quiet miracle of being human again. But here's what most people never realize. You don't need a passport to feel that. You just need alignment. Because the best parts of vacation aren't the location, they're the structure. The lack of meetings, the presence of intention, and the control over your energy. So imagine if just one day a week felt that clean. Imagine a Wednesday where your calendar serves your creativity, not your anxiety. That's not fantasy, that's design. And it starts by opting out of the lie that escape is the only reward. Because let's be honest, most people don't just want time off, they want time with meaning. They want to work, but on the right things. They want to contribute, but with clarity. They want to be productive, but without self-neglect. And that means rethinking your model entirely. Not work harder, escape longer, but work cleaner, live closer. Closer to your values. Closer to your natural rhythm. closer to the life your ambition was meant to build. So how do we make that shift? It starts with emotional honesty. You have to get real about what drains you. Not just the tasks, but the tone. The environments, the expectations, the low-grade pressure you've normalized. That meeting that eats your Tuesday for no reason? That client that demands urgency but pays late? That hour spent catching up when you're really just calming anxiety through activity? It all adds up. And over time, it shapes a life that feels like noise. Next comes strategic reduction. You don't need to escape everything. You need to subtract the unnecessary. If you removed 15% of your calendar this week, things you're doing out of guilt, inertia, or people-pleasing, your nervous system would thank you. Your creativity would come back online. Your thinking would sharpen, and most of all, you'd feel safer. Because that's what alignment creates, not just efficiency, but emotional safety. The kind that lets you slow down without guilt and speed up without fear. This is where we pivot into the concept of asymmetric peace. It's a Finflix term we use for building systems that deliver more freedom than they cost to maintain. Tiny changes, huge returns. Like batching your calls into 2 days instead of 5. Like investing 30 minutes in a system that saves you 4 hours a week. Like deleting that app that robs more attention than it earns in joy. Asymmetric peace isn't about perfection, it's about decisions that compound, leverage for your life. Think of it like this: most people build lives that trade time for status. But you can build a life that trades clarity for autonomy. The former looks like a big house, a better title, a resume that gleams. The latter looks like slow mornings, energized afternoons, and evenings where your brain isn't fried. It's the difference between a life that impresses others and one that nourishes you. That doesn't mean you stop working. It means you build a workflow that energizes. One where your effort is aligned with outcomes you believe in. One where rest is baked into the model, not squeezed into the corners. Because no one's coming to give you permission to slow down. You have to grant it to yourself. You have to stop asking how to do more and start asking how to feel less fragmented. And here's the wild part: when you do, your results go up. Clarity compounds, so does consistency. When you stop rushing, you start retaining. When you stop multitasking, you start creating. When you stop performing, you start connecting. That's the root of all deep progress: presence. And presence is impossible in a life that's built around escape. So far, we've reframed the problem. It's not about working too hard, it's about working out of sync. It's not exhaustion from ambition, it's burnout from misalignment. Now comes the pivot. How do you build a life that energizes instead of drains? A life where weekends aren't escape routes and Mondays don't feel like punishment? That shift happens through design, specifically through a lifestyle operating system rooted in alignment. This isn't productivity hacks or morning routines. This is structural. It's a system that puts intention back at the center of your daily choices. And it starts with the 6 levers of alignment, clear, repeatable moves that recalibrate your calendar, your energy, and your emotional baseline. 1. Audit your energy environment. Look beyond your tasks, look at the terrain you're moving through. Are your surroundings serving your goals? Does your workspace, your tech stack, your notifications, your inputs help you focus or fragment you? Start tracking moments in your day that leave you drained versus energized. Not just what you did, but where and with whom. You'll start to notice patterns. Energy isn't just managed, it's protected. If you're constantly tired, look at the ecosystem around your focus, not just your to-do list. 2. Redefine enough. Most people chase more without defining what for. That's the trap. When enough isn't defined, more becomes your master. So here's the move. Write down your baseline. How much income lets you live well, contribute, save, and invest without lifestyle bloat? What schedule feels spacious, not just productive? What level of public visibility is required and what can remain sacred? By defining enough, you set the ceiling before your ambition burns you out trying to pierce the sky. 3. Embed asymmetry. Asymmetry is what separates hustle from scale. It's the art of investing effort once and receiving returns over time. We're talking systems, content, digital assets, evergreen funnels, royalties, SOPs, anything that creates time leverage. Let's be real. If you stop working and everything stops, you don't have a business. You have a job disguised as a dream. Asymmetric assets protect your peace by decoupling income from input. They give you space to think, the real engine of long-term wealth. 4. Prioritize depth over breadth. A scattered life feels productive but rarely moves. Stop being available to everyone and everything. That constant accessibility, it's costing you clarity. Instead, build blocks of deep work. Turn off notifications. Say no more. Protect a few hours per day like they're sacred, because they are. That's where breakthroughs happen. Not in reactive scrolls or back-to-back calls, but in silence, strategy, and solitude. Even 3 hours of clarity per week can radically outperform 30 hours of shallow motion. 5. Schedule space like strategy. Rest isn't a reward, it's infrastructure. If your model only works when you're on 100%, it's not a system, it's a scramble. Schedule downtime before you earn it. Front-load recovery like a performer would before a big tour. Quiet mornings, blank Fridays. Recovery days that don't involve errands. This isn't laziness, it's elite sustainability. You can't scale burnout, but you can scale clarity. And clarity only happens when your brain isn't fried. 6. Live by ownership, not optics. This is where it all crystallizes. You're not here to impress, you're here to own. Your time, your emotions, your energy. The middle-class mindset is obsessed with how life looks. The builder's mindset is obsessed with how life feels. You don't need to prove alignment, you need to live it. That might look like a calendar that's 40% emptier than before. It might mean rejecting offers that look great on paper but bankrupt your bandwidth. It's owning your no as much as your yes. And that's what wealth really is. Ownership of your minutes, your mission, and your mental bandwidth. When these 6 levers are activated together, something subtle but powerful happens. You stop reacting to life and start composing it. Each choice becomes intentional. Each hour becomes directional. And that's when your nervous system quiets. That's when Mondays don't feel heavy. Because it's not about escaping anymore, it's about engagement. You want to be there. Because what you're building feeds you. Once you've activated the 6 levers of alignment, the next challenge isn't intensity, it's consistency. Because building a life worth living isn't a one-time decision. It's a daily discipline. You don't arrive at alignment and live there forever. Life shifts, clients shift, energy shifts, but that's not failure. That's feedback. The goal is fluid structure, a lifestyle system that adapts as you evolve without collapsing under pressure. Start by building review rituals. Every Friday, audit your calendar. What energized you? What drained you? What did you say yes to that should have been a no? This isn't reflection for guilt, it's reflection for recalibration. Each week, your system gets tighter, your filters get sharper. And slowly, your default mode becomes presence, not performance. Next, reframe success. Modern culture will tell you the markers are money, likes, engagement, reach, but that's just visibility. True wealth is time autonomy. The ability to choose where, how, and why you spend your minutes. So track peace per hour. It's not a spreadsheet metric, but it's the most honest KPI you'll ever hold. Ask yourself, for the time I invested, how much alignment did I earn? Then comes boundary engineering. Most people think boundaries are for defense, but boundaries are actually design tools. They're filters that protect your bandwidth, your attention, your internal state. That might look like no meetings before 10 a.m. It might look like 2 unplugged nights a week. It might mean building in time blocks where nothing gets scheduled, because empty space is the most powerful asset on your calendar. You'll feel resistance, that's normal, because you're disrupting conditioning. You're removing validation loops. You're choosing peace over applause, and that will confuse people. But that's the price of agency. The more aligned your life becomes, the less explainable it will feel to people who benefit from your overextension. Let that be okay. Let that be a sign that you're building something rare. And here's where we drop the final domino. The goal isn't freedom from work, it's freedom within work. You don't need to retire at 35. You need to stop living in reaction and start leading with intention. You need to wake up and want the day. Not because it's easy, but because it's aligned. Because the friction you face is in service of a vision you chose, not one that was handed to you. And for that to happen, your metrics must evolve. From earnings to ownership, from volume to value. From time spent to traction gained, from looking successful to feeling powerful, because power isn't control over others, it's control over your own design. And that's what Monday should represent, not punishment, not performance, power. The quiet, confident kind that doesn't need caffeine or applause to activate. That's the new archetype, that's the builder's path. And if you've made it this far, you're not a bystander, you're a builder. You're not seeking escapism, you're seeking sovereignty. You're not chasing rest. You're protecting it. So here's the final ask. The thing that separates viewers from visionaries. Don't go back to default. Build forward with design. This week, cut one obligation from your calendar. Replace one meeting with a maker session. Reclaim 1 hour and give it to your future self. Define one metric that actually matters to your version of a beautiful life. Then repeat. Stack clarity. Compound calm. Build identity. Because that's what a true motivated Monday looks like, not hype, not hustle. The high-trust rhythm rooted in ownership. If this message shifted your lens even 1 degree, don't let it fade by morning. Because awareness without action is just another kind of burnout. You don't need to overhaul your life today, but you can reclaim 1 hour, one decision. One calendar block. This channel is your weekly reset. A space for clear frameworks and intentional momentum. No hustle worship. No productivity noise, just clarity systemized, so hit subscribe. Set your Monday reminder. And share this with one person stuck in the cycle you just stepped out of. Because we don't wait for permission. We design lives worth waking up for. This is Finflix, where motivation meets structure and clarity. Thank you for watching the official Finflix. See you in the next video.